In the late 1870s, standing on the banks of the Tallapoosa River in Alabama, a godly young mother held her baby boy high in the air, looked to heaven, and prayed, "Lord, this is the best I have to give you." God took that young mother's offering and made of him one of the most dynamic and impactful pastors, preachers, and leaders of the 20th century. John Franklin Norris was born in Dadeville, Alabama on September 18, 1877. Throughout his youth, everyone knew him as Frank. While his dad was a struggling sharecropper whose failures led him to become an alcoholic, his mother was a diligent prayer warrior who encouraged, protected, nurtured, and educated her boy to become a strong man of faith. When Frank was 11, the family moved to Texas. At 13 years of age, Frank got saved at a Methodist revival meeting, and just a few years later, he was baptized by a Baptist pastor. Early in his teens, Frank was shot 3 times by some cattle rustlers who were targeting his father. The doctor said Frank would not survive the gunshot wounds, and if somehow he did, he would never walk again. Not only did Frank survive, but he also trained himself to walk again by the time he was 18. He went to Baylor University, where he would develop some of the most important relationships of his life. He would learn at the feet of great Baptist educators, including theologian B.H. Carroll. He would make friends with fellow students, with whom he would interact throughout his ministry. But most importantly, he would meet and marry the love of his life, Lillian Gaddy, with whom he would serve the Lord for 50 years. Together, Frank and Lillian Norris would raise 4 children. During his years at Baylor, J. Frank Norris pastored the First Baptist Church in Mount Calm, Texas. After completing his graduate work at Southern Baptist Theological Seminary in Louisville, Kentucky, he accepted a call to pastor McKinney Avenue Baptist Church in Dallas in 1905. There were 13 people at his first service there, and on his first anniversary as pastor, there were over 1,000 in attendance. In 1909, as a result of a recommendation by his college professor B.H. Carroll, J. Frank Norris was called to pastor the First Baptist Church of Fort Worth, Texas, the church he would pastor for 40 years. When Norris went to Fort Worth in 1909, the First Baptist Church was known as the Church of the Cattle Kings, filled with millionaires. During his first 2 years as the pastor of the First Baptist Church of Fort Worth, J. Frank Norris allowed himself to get caught up with this elite class. He later confessed, "I was a typical city pastor. I had tuxedos. I was the chief after-dinner speaker, the main attraction at all the gatherings. I was Will Rogers and Mark Twain combined." During this time, he did everything necessary to avoid confrontation and controversy. But he also became very discouraged with his lack of spiritual power. So discouraged that he told his wife, "I think I'll quit the ministry." She quickly shot back, "You haven't begun it yet." About that time, Norris was invited to preach a revival meeting in Owensboro, Kentucky. Throughout those meetings, he spent his time earnestly seeking the Lord. Before he returned to Texas, he told the Lord, "I'm entering the ministry." This would be one of the great crossroads of his life. His ministry was never the same after that. It wasn't long before the First Baptist Church of Fort Worth was averaging 100 new members every Sunday. By 1920, the church had a membership of 12,000 people. Their Sunday school of 5,000 was the world's largest. He would use every kind of sensational method to draw crowds, like advertising that in his upcoming sermon he was going to reveal the details of corruption in the life of a particular city politician or businessman. When people crowded the building to hear the message, Pastor Norris would give them the gospel, and many would be saved. The wealthy church members tried to vote J. Frank Norris out for reaching too many street people, but they found that such a large number of that rough crowd had been saved and baptized that the elite crowd was greatly outnumbered. The list of J. Frank Norris's ministry exploits is very long. He became pastor of the Temple Baptist Church in Detroit, and he pastored the churches in Fort Worth and Detroit simultaneously. The churches had a combined membership of 22,000 people and an average Sunday school attendance of 8,000 people. He had nationwide radio and newspaper ministries, and he established the Bible Baptist Seminary in Fort Worth. In July of 1926, Pastor Norris was sitting in his office when a drunk man named D.E. Chips came bursting through the office door, cursing and threatening to kill Norris. Pastor Norris pulled a revolver out of his desk drawer and he shot Chips dead. J. Frank Norris was indicted for murder, but was later found not guilty by reason of self-defense. J. Frank Norris developed a demeanor in his later years that even some of his most loyal supporters described as schizophrenic. But through all of his struggles, he never lost his compassion for souls. He died on August 20th, 1952, while visiting in Florida. He was buried in Fort Worth 4 days later. His tombstone reads, "I would do anything to keep a man out of hell." Christian, live your life with an undying passion for lost souls. Stay the course.